Welcome to the August-September showcase, and as usual we have some exciting updates from all three projects for you. But let's start with the Wildlife Watcher. Quick refresher, as part of the Wildlife Watcher project, we're building a smart AI camera that will detect, recognize and take good quality images of all animal species. We're also providing a seamless pipeline and workflow for the user to process the footage and train new models. As for the progress, Adash has done an amazing work on completing the mobile app spec, creating a very detailed, comprehensive document, capturing all the mobile app functionality, the development and the deployment processes. And now, using this spec, the build has commenced, and hopefully by the end of the week we should have an app that will be able to start testing and all the user workflows as well. So very well done to Adash. We also had our first model trained with 10 categories of species. It currently picks up rats and mice with around 70% accuracy. And interestingly, dogs with over 80% accuracy. And the first draft of the user guide for training on models is nearly done as well and ready for review and refinement by the team. Also, the model upload process has been simplified and some of the formatting issues resolved. So now the process for the user is more straightforward. And once we fix some small bugs, we'll be able to test it as well. So thank you, Tobin and Will, for all your great work there. As for the camera itself, the flash still needs to be tested in various lighting conditions. We will have Ash helping out with that once he receives the equipment. And finally, the team is collaborating on the new camera design, and that includes a new PCB and a new case design, which will be more weatherproof and user-friendly. And Charles and our contractor Nick have done a great deal of work on that to make sure that both case and the PCB are perfectly aligned. And they're almost ready to start the build on that as well. And we also had quite a few one-on-one sessions with the users, trying to understand their projects and requirements a little better. We discussed things like species, their behavior, approaches to monitoring, locations, terrain, and deployment timeframes. And as for the insights from the sessions, we know that an accurate motion sensor is the most important one and the most exciting one as well. And especially if we get the sensitivity levels right. So to avoid, for example, issues with moving vegetation, we don't want the cameras to trigger then. But we also want it to be sensitive enough to pick up smaller creatures, like weta, for example. Flash and night vision are another feature that's quite important, as a lot of the species are nocturnal. And finally, LoRaWAN communication and offline app use are key as well, with some of the locations being remote with no network access. And in terms of the species to be tracked, there are a few native invertebrates that we discussed, like weta and beetles, lizards, as well as kiwis as well, and predators, and introduced species like ferrets, rats, dogs, and cats. So it was great to hear from the users. Their goals basically informed our priorities. And they're very excited to use our equipment, and we're planning to use some of these projects and their findings as our case studies for the product in the future. And what's coming up next? We are trying to get the beta version of the product ready with the new design of the case and the new PCB. And we want to do some comprehensive testing of the mobile app, the flash, the motion sensor, and test the image quality in the field as well to make sure that our parameters are correctly set up. And also upload and test the rat model together with the LoRaWAN communications. So a lot of testing to do just to make sure that the cameras are ready for the users to deploy and use. But that's very exciting times ahead for us. So watch this space. And we're aiming to have those beta version cameras ready by October time. Are there any questions for us?
Hey, one question maybe, do you have any anecdotes or interesting stories from the user interviews?
It was very interesting to hear that this will be quite a new technology for them to use. So that's why they are very excited to use the camera. For example, especially the invertebrates and the lizard teams, and they can use some camera traps, but they don't pick up movement. They just pick up, in infrared and heat. So for invertebrates and for lizards, that's not a solution. So the only way for them to use the cameras to pick up those species is to set them on time lapse, which is not very efficient when in terms of then processing the footage, because you get a lot of false just images with no species, no animals in them, because you just set them up by frequency. So that was very interesting to hear, and they are very excited to actually receive those cameras. Um, there were some places that had a lot of introduced species problems, and my first thought was rats or mice, but actually they apparently had a lot of interference from dogs and cats, even though it's an area that's supposed to be quite protected, but they still had issues with, kiwis, for example, being attacked by a cat or a dog, even if dogs are on a leash, because they're not supposed to. Thanks, Tobin. They're not supposed to be in the area, but they still. People still manage to break the rules and actually bring those species in. So that's what the equipment would be actually very useful as well for them to monitor whether there are those rule breakers, whether there are those species that actually threaten the native animals as well. So that was really interesting to see. It was just very interesting and exciting to hear about all of the different use cases and the way that the camera can help. And that's why we decided just to turn it into a list of different use cases, just to show, and different case studies, just to show how the camera can actually, change those and improve those research projects and results.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was great to hear. Excellent. If there are no more questions, I'll move on to Spyfish. Kalindi, you want me to share? Keep sharing the screen.
Yes, please, please. That will be much easier.
Great.
Yeah, so welcome everyone, or hello again. And as before, our goal is and objective is still the one to make the use of tools and citizen scientists, technical tools to monitor reserves more efficiently, which means like automating, streamlining, and so on. Yeah, we can go to the next slide, where we talk about our milestones for this last month. And I guess the maybe new venue where we are working on is just exploring the annotation files. We have four types of output. And the one is, so what I mean by annotation is basically after reviewing a video, there are basically for each species, there's a line with an information of a max size per a certain amount of time. So each annotation is is a row with that info, and each file has information about a specific deployment. And there are four types like that. So one is from machine learning, one is from citizen scientists, and then there's two types that come from experts. One is the legacy files that like rangers from doc used to write basically by hand into Excel sheets, and one is Beagle that I showcased last week, not last week, last month. And so we started basically the first step, just looking at what the outputs are and starting to parse. And then as I'll show on the next slide afterwards, we're also starting to work on the pipe, like on how they connect from one annotation to the other to then have a common output that is readable for Power BI to and reports. And then more work on the automatic error validation. We added clean data export. We used to have a way to export data, but now it's a little bit more modular. So hopefully, like any change earlier in the pipeline will propagate more easily. And then I guess an interesting part is, as I always say, we still keep doing cleaning and legacy data upload and so on. But I've noticed that it's much faster now because we know exactly what the columns are, what people need to provide, and which things are like really required and so on. So the process that used to take a few weeks before was like a day or two, because it's like, oh, you just need to give this, and then they find those sheets and so on. So it's a lot of work of bringing sheets from all these different teams from all over into one place. And then it's really interesting that the data is much more available for the doc rangers to review. It was interesting when you were talking about user interviews, because it's, I guess our way of working is also a little bit different, because you're working on something and then reviewing, like talking to the users that will be interested in it, or that might find it useful. Whereas we're starting from a problem with a team, so the relationship is like constant, and we keep having this sometimes response to demands they already have, or problems, like there's a lot of problems that already exist that we're trying to solve while also building the product. So that's quite like quite interesting, this aspect of the legacy data and tools and everything. So yeah, that was maybe a little difference. And as I mentioned before, if you go to the next slide, this is basically our planned annotation workflow, which is, we can see basically there's the machine learning annotations, or like running the machine learning, and then there's these different lines that go into different buckets. And one is if there's low confidence for machine learning, it will go to the Zooniverse for citizen scientists to review. And then if there's low agreement, that goes to experts to review. And then all of them go into the basically this annotations file that can then be reviewed and reported on. And then of course some like spot checks just to see that the pipeline works. And so I guess we started working on making this a reality. Thank you. And then just as usual, a little video, and if there's any questions. From this video, I think what's interesting is just that it moves a lot. And so whoever is annotating, I imagine they get a bit of seasickness, probably. Thanks.
Thanks, Kalindi. I have a question. So that was interesting about the users as well and different approaches. Do you have several different users that you speak to, so several conflicting demands potentially? How do you prioritize?
I guess we have it somewhat easy in the sense of that there is the main stakeholder, like, which is Mon from the Department of Conservation, and she runs the marine, well, I guess this project, maybe Victor can correct me if I get something wrong, but then she works with a lot of rangers. And so I get to talk to quite a few of these teams, but if there's any issue or priority problem, I can just refer to her and be like, oh, what do we do? Is this important, or is the other thing important? So it's quite, I guess, some of the prioritization efforts are not on our plate, but then I think it's really important from our side sometimes to be like, actually, I think this is very important. We need to do this before we do other things, because this is causing problems further down. And so sometimes like we push back, or we ask for something to be done before or after. Yeah. So yeah,
makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Kalindi? No questions. Great. I think we'll be done very soon.
Thank you.
Tash, your turn. Did you want me to keep sharing?
Yes, you can keep sharing, because there's one slide or two slides. That's it.
Cool.
Cool. Right, kia ora everyone. So I just thought I'd share again our objective, which is to inspire the next generation to protect Aotearoa's environment for the future. The program's sitting there ready to go. We've tried promoting it to various schools within Taranaki, but haven't had very much success at the moment, unfortunately. I just think it's no, that's it. I just think it's the education environment at the moment. There's a lot going on with the current government and different changes happening. So we're just really going to sit on the program, try and promote it, people networking, but come October, November, we'll really start pushing it to schools again for the next year in 2026, and hopefully we'll have some schools pick it up and we can move forward, and I'll have something exciting to report. But got a few collaborations happening in the background at the moment, which we're hoping might lift our profile a bit as well with various schools. But that's all me, yeah. So not much happening. Thank you.
Thanks, Tash. So what has been the biggest challenge with sort of getting that program into the schools, and is it just the timing that's not right, or?
I think there's two big challenges. This is just my perception of it. One is having two major big, the timing. You know, there's a new numeracy and new literacy curriculums introduced to schools this year, and so there's a lot of mahi that teachers need to get their heads around, because it's changing how we teach in schools. And the other thing is that I feel schools have quite a crowded curriculum anyway. So we've got all this new mahi for literacy and numeracy coming through, but then we've also got to fit in all the sports exchanges and the digital, like tech that the kids are doing. You know, like there's a lot of other things that have to be squished into the time frame that they're at school. And I think it's just teachers prioritizing our program, like seeing the value in it. So it's really about getting around there and talking to schools and showing them what we've got. And that's why I think if we approach schools for term like the end of term 2, so it's halfway through their school year. So I think if we can approach schools coming into the new year, they'll have more of an opportunity to see when they can fit it in and prioritize it for a bit better, maybe. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Thanks, Tash. Any more questions for Tash? No more? Victor, is there anything from you? Anything you wanted to share?
No, not at this point. Just traveling in Europe and staying on top of a few projects and helping wherever I can.
Nice.
And
We're very jealous. There was a question in the chat for you, Tash.
Yeah. John, no, I haven't actually thought about the schools for the deaf and blind. That might be quite an interesting avenue to go. So I'll definitely put that on my list of places to approach. Maybe even so thank you for the heads up for that.
Yeah.
Great suggestion. Thanks, John. Awesome. I think that's all the updates for today. Thank you so much for dialing in. This meeting has been recorded, so I'll be sending a recording out if you missed anything, if you wanted to rewatch it as well. And we'll see you in October for another showcase. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. See you later.